Chief Medical Officer Zyx'tal had seen a lot of things in his 43 cycles aboard the Galactic research vessel Harmony's Edge. He had treated Corthaxian poison burns, extracted Valerian mind parasites, and once spent 6 hours removing a small moon from a graviton's digestive tract. But nothing, absolutely nothing, had prepared him for humans. The medical bay hummed with its usual efficiency as Zyx'tal reviewed the morning reports. His forearms moved in, practiced coordination, updating patient files while his secondary brain processed the ship's environmental data. Everything was perfectly normal until the emergency klaxon shattered the peaceful atmosphere. "Medical emergency on Deck 7, the ship's AI announced in its annoyingly cheerful voice. Human crew member down. Repeat, human crew member down." Zyx'tal's eye stalks twitched in what his species considered mild annoyance. Humans. Of course it was a human. These fragile little creatures seemed to break if you looked at them wrong. He had been telling Captain Mordun for months that keeping humans aboard was like maintaining a collection of delicate glass ornaments in a meteor shower. He grabbed his medical kit and bounded toward the transport pad, his 6 legs carrying him with surprising grace. The journey to Deck 7 took exactly 47 seconds, during which Zyx'tal mentally prepared himself for the usual human medical drama. Probably another case of exhaustion from working a normal 8-hour shift, or perhaps stress from eating food that wasn't specifically designed for their impossibly narrow dietary requirements. The scene that greeted him was disappointingly typical. Jake Sullivan, one of the newer human additions to the crew, lay sprawled on the deck plating like a discarded puppet. His pale pink skin had taken on an interesting grayish hue, and his breathing appeared shallow and irregular. Several concerned crew members had gathered around, maintaining what they considered a respectful distance, but what Zyx'tal knew was actually terror of catching whatever mysterious human ailment had struck this time. "What happened?" Zyx'tal asked, extending his scanner toward the unconscious human. Ensign Clixita, a nervous reptoid from the navigation department, wrung his scaled hands anxiously. He was just walking down the corridor. "Doctor, completely normal." Then he made this strange noise, grabbed his chest, and collapsed. Zyx'tal sighed, a sound that came out as a wet whistling through his breathing apertures. Did he consume anything unusual recently? He mentioned something about a weekend bender during the shift briefing, offered Lieutenant Zorwin helpfully, whatever that means. The scanner beeped ominously as Zyx'tal ran it over Jake's prone form. The readings were confusing. The human's vital signs were erratic. His blood chemistry showed massive irregularities, and his brain activity suggested he was either dying or experiencing some form of toxic shock. Yet somehow, impossibly, all the readings fell within what the ship's database insisted were normal human parameters. "This makes no sense," Zyx'tal muttered, his translator struggling with the concept of confusion. "According to these readings, this creature should be dead, multiple times over." He activated the emergency transport field and watched as Jake's unconscious form shimmered and disappeared, heading directly to the medical bay's primary examination table. The gathered crew dispersed with visible relief, no doubt grateful they wouldn't have to deal with whatever mysterious human plague was clearly ravaging their crewmate. Back in the medical bay, Zyx'tal began his examination in earnest. He had treated exactly 17 humans during his tenure aboard the Harmony's Edge, and every single case had left him questioning his medical training. These creatures defied every known law of biology, surviving on diets that would kill most civilized species, and somehow thriving in conditions that should have rendered them extinct eons ago. Jake's preliminary scans revealed the usual human impossibilities. His bone density was approximately 4 times what it should be for a creature of his size. His muscle tissue contained enough concentrated minerals to qualify as a geological sample, and his blood, well, his blood was going to require a full toxicological analysis because the scanner kept insisting it contained compounds that simply could not exist in a living organism. "Computer," Zyx'tal commanded, "initiate comprehensive blood workup on human specimen, full spectral analysis, toxicology screen, and genetic marker identification." "Working," the computer replied. Estimated completion time 47 minutes. Zyx'tal settled back to wait, already mentally preparing his report for Captain Mordun. Another human medical mystery, another opportunity to explain to the command staff why these creatures required special handling protocols that made caring for antimatter-based lifeforms seem simple by comparison. He had no idea that in 47 minutes, Everything he thought he knew about human biology was about to be turned completely upside down. 47 minutes later, Zyx'tal was staring at his computer screen with the kind of expression usually reserved for witnessing cosmic horror. The analysis had finished right on schedule, but the results were problematic. Error sample, contaminated with unknown toxins. The computer announced cheerfully, "Please provide clean sample for analysis." Zyx'tal's eye stalks drooped in what his species considered deep frustration. He had drawn the blood sample himself, using sterile technique that would make a Germanian monk weep with joy. There was no way it was contaminated. Computer, run analysis again, override contamination protocols. Working, error. Sample contains lethal concentrations of multiple toxic compounds. Classification, hazardous waste. Recommend immediate disposal and medical quarantine. Now Zyx'tal was beginning to panic. If Jake's blood was truly contaminated with hazardous materials, half the ship could be at risk. He quickly activated the emergency containment field around the sample and called for backup. Kypnox, Velandra, report to Medical Bay immediately. Priority Alpha. Within minutes, his 2 assistant medical officers arrived, their various appendages twitching with concern. Kypnox, a methodical crystalline being whose transparent body made every emotion visible, immediately began examining the containment field with scientific curiosity. Velandra, whose species resembled an oversized mantis with anger management issues, clicked her mandibles ominously. "What's the emergency?" Velandra demanded, her compound eyes reflecting the medical bay's sterile lighting. "The human's blood," Zyx'tal explained, gesturing toward the contained sample. "The computer keeps insisting it's contaminated with lethal toxins." Kypnox's crystalline structure shifted to a concerned amber hue. Define lethal. According to the analysis, this single blood sample contains enough toxic compounds to kill a medium-sized thoraxian. The computer is recommending we evacuate the medical bay and call in hazmat specialists. Velandra leaned closer to examine the readout, her antenna twitching rapidly. "These chemical signatures, I recognize some of these compounds. This one here, Ca2H6O, that's ethanol. It's a solvent used in industrial cleaning applications. And this," Kypnox added, his internal structure shifting to an alarmed red, caffeine. "It's a known nervous system disruptor. We use it to euthanize small research specimens." Zyx'tal felt his secondary stomach drop. "Are you telling me this human has industrial solvents and euthanization chemicals coursing through his bloodstream?" "Wait, there's more," Velandra continued, her voice taking on the tone of someone witnessing a traffic accident in slow motion. "Capsaicin, acetaldehyde, tannins, and, is that nicotine?" Computer, confirm presence of nicotine in sample. Confirmed, nicotine concentration, 0.0031 milligrams per deciliter. The 3 medical officers stood in stunned silence. Nicotine was used as an industrial pesticide on 17 different worlds. The amount detected would be enough to kill a vegan tree sprite. "This is impossible," Kypnox whispered, his crystalline body now cycling through colors of disbelief. "No organic creature could survive with these toxin levels. The human should be dead." "Multiple times over," Velandra agreed grimly. Zyx'tal activated his personal communicator with trembling appendages. "Computer, access human medical database. Cross-reference detected compounds with human dietary consumption patterns." The pause seemed to last forever. When the computer finally responded, its tone somehow managed to convey mechanical confusion. "Cross-reference complete. All detected compounds are classified as common human recreational substances. Ethanol, consumed voluntarily in liquid form for pleasure. Caffeine, daily consumption average 95 milligrams per human. Capsaicin, added to food for flavor enhancement. Nicotine, historical recreational use. Current levels suggest recent cessation of consumption." The medical bay fell silent except for the soft humming of life support systems and the occasional bewildered click from Velandra's mandibles. "They consume these things voluntarily?" Kypnox asked, his color shifting to a shade that didn't exist in any known spectrum. "For pleasure," Zyx'tal repeated slowly, as if saying the words might make them make sense. Velandra began pacing, her 6 legs clicking against the deck plating in an agitated rhythm. "Ole. Let me understand this correctly. Humans deliberately ingest industrial solvents, nervous system disruptors, and pesticides because they enjoy it. According to the database, yes. And apparently they've been doing this for thousands of years. But how are they not extinct? Hypnox demanded, his entire crystalline structure now flashing between panic and scientific fascination. Zyx'tal pulled up Jake's complete medical file, his hands shaking slightly. Computer, display human baseline toxicology parameters. The screen filled with data that defied every principle of xenobiology he had ever learned. Normal human blood chemistry included regular traces of dozens of compounds that would hospitalize most galactic species. Their standard diet consisted of foods that were literally poisonous to 80% of known life forms. This can't be right, Valundra muttered. According to these readings, humans are essentially walking chemical weapons. Worse, Zyx'tal corrected, staring at the data in horror. They're walking chemical weapons that consume more toxins for fun. Just then a soft groan came from the examination table. Jake Sullivan was beginning to regain consciousness, blissfully unaware that his blood chemistry had just caused 3 highly trained medical professionals to question everything they thought they knew about life in the universe. Where am I? Jake mumbled, trying to sit up. The 3 alien medical officers exchanged glances that somehow conveyed both terror and morbid curiosity. Jake Sullivan sat up on the examination table, rubbing his temples with the casual indifference of someone who had clearly experienced this exact scenario multiple times before. His color was returning to normal, which Zyx'tal noted was apparently just another impossible human trait. "Oh hey Doc," Jake said cheerfully, focusing his eyes with visible effort. "Did I pass out again? Man, I really need to pace myself better on shore leave." The 3 alien medical officers stared at him with the kind of fascination usually reserved for watching supernovas. Zyx'tal stepped forward cautiously as if approaching a potentially explosive device. "Jake, I need to ask you some questions about your recent activities. Specifically, what did you consume during your weekend bender?" Jake chuckled, a sound that made Valandra's antenna twitch nervously. "Oh boy, where do I even start? Friday night I hit up Murphy's bar with the guys. Had maybe 8 or 9 beers, couple shots of whiskey. Saturday was Elena's birthday party, so we did tequila shots and those weird blue cocktails she likes. Sunday I was nursing a hangover, so just coffee. Lots and lots of coffee." Hypnox's crystalline structure turned a shade of purple that roughly translated to existential dread. "How much coffee?" "I don't know, maybe 12 cups? 14? I lost count after the first pot." Zyx'tal quickly consulted his scanner. 12 cups of coffee would deliver approximately 1,200 milligrams of caffeine. According to galactic medical standards, anything over 50 milligrams was considered a lethal dose for most species. "And the alcohol consumption?" Valandra asked weakly. "Pretty standard weekend, really."
Nothing crazy."
Jake stretched his joints, making small popping sounds that caused all 3 medical officers to flinch. "Why is something wrong with my blood work?" "Define wrong," Zyx'tal muttered, pulling up the toxicology report again. "Jake, are you aware that your blood currently registers as hazardous waste by galactic standards?" Jake laughed, which was apparently another normal human response to being told they were a walking biohazard. "Really? That's hilarious. Wait until I tell Marcus. He's always bragging about how he can drink anyone under the table." Before any of the medical staff could process this terrifying revelation, the medical bay doors slid open. Marcus Webb, another human crew member, walked in carrying what appeared to be a steaming cup of liquid poison. "Hey Jake, heard you took another tumble. Brought you some coffee to help with the hangover." Marcus offered the cup with the kind of casual friendliness that made Zyx'tal want to activate emergency protocols. "Marcus Webb," Valandra said slowly, "would you mind if we ran a quick blood sample on you, for comparison purposes?" "Sure thing, Doc. No problem." Marcus rolled up his sleeve with the enthusiasm of someone completely unaware they were about to shatter 3 medical careers. 5 minutes later, the computer was having what could only be described as a mechanical nervous breakdown. Error. Second sample also contaminated. Toxin levels exceed measurement parameters. Recommend immediate evacuation of medical facility. Marcus's blood showed even higher concentrations of ethanol, plus several compounds the database couldn't identify. There were also traces of something called capsaicin in levels that would have qualified as chemical warfare on most civilized worlds. Marcus, Kipnox asked carefully, "What did you eat for breakfast?" "Oh, just my usual. 3 eggs, bacon, hash browns, and a ghost pepper omelet. Love me some spicy food in the morning. Really gets the blood pumping, you know." The 3 medical officers exchanged looks of pure horror. Zyx'tal quickly accessed the Galactic database on capsaicin. According to the files, ghost peppers measured over 1 million Scoville heat units. Most species used capsaicin extract as a non-lethal crowd control agent. You eat crowd control chemicals for breakfast," Valandra whispered. "Well, when you put it like that, it sounds weird," Marcus laughed. "But humans have been eating spicy food for thousands of years. Builds character." Jake nodded enthusiastically, while sipping his coffee, apparently oblivious to the fact that he was consuming what 3 trained medical professionals now recognized as liquid death.
"Oh yeah, Marcus makes the best hot sauce. Uses Carolina Reapers and everything."
Carolina Reapers? Kipnox's color had shifted to something beyond the visible spectrum. "Hottest pepper on Earth. About 2.2 million Scoville units. I grow them hydroponically in my quarters." Zyx'tal's secondary brain began processing this information with growing alarm. "You're telling me that you voluntarily cultivate biological weapons in your living space?" "Biological weapons? Dude, they're just peppers." At that moment, Elena Vasquez entered the medical bay carrying what appeared to be a small container of concentrated nightmare fuel. She was Hispanic, about 35, with the kind of confident demeanor that suggested she had never met a challenge she couldn't face head-on. "Hey guys, brought some of my grandmother's salsa for the potluck tonight. Fair warning, it's got habaneros, serranos, and a few other surprises." The container in her hands was emanating a smell that made the air filtration system activate emergency purification protocols. "Elena," Zyx'tal said weakly, "would you mind terribly if we tested your blood as well?" "Sure, no problem. Is this for some kind of study?" 10 minutes later, Elena's results came back showing toxin levels that would have qualified her for immediate incineration on 7 different worlds. Her blood contained not only the usual human poisons but also compounds the computer insisted were incompatible with organic life. "I don't understand," Kipnox said, his crystalline structure flickering rapidly between colors of confusion and terror. "How are you all still alive?" Jake shrugged. "Good genes, I guess. Plus humans are pretty resilient. We've been poisoning ourselves for entertainment since we figured out fermentation." "And the spicy food?" Valandra asked. "Pain tolerance," Elena explained cheerfully. "Plus, capsaicin triggers endorphin release. It's basically a natural high." "You consume chemical weapons to get high," Zyx'tal repeated slowly, making sure his translator was working correctly. "When you say it like that, it sounds bad," Marcus protested. "But really, it's just part of human culture. We like our food spicy and our drinks strong." The 3 alien medical officers stood in stunned silence, finally understanding that humans weren't just resilient or adaptable, they were essentially biological impossibilities who had weaponized their own metabolism for recreational purposes. And somehow this was considered normal. Jake, now fully recovered, and apparently energized by what the medical team could only classify as voluntary chemical poisoning, beamed at the 3 alien doctors with the kind of enthusiasm that made seasoned medical professionals nervous. "You know what, guys? You've been so great taking care of me. I think it's time we return the favor. How about we introduce you to some real human hospitality?" Zyx'tal's eye stalks recoiled instinctively. That's really not necessary, Jake." "Nonsense. Marcus, Elena, we should totally share some of our favorite Earth foods with the medical team. Show them what they're missing." Marcus's face lit up with the dangerous excitement of someone about to commit an act of accidental biochemical warfare. "Oh man, great idea. I've got some of that Carolina Reaper hot sauce in my quarters. And Elena, didn't you say you brought that salsa? The one with 7 different types of peppers?" Elena confirmed proudly. "Plus, I've got some authentic Mexican chocolate. It's got cinnamon, chili powder, and a few other special ingredients." Valandra's mandibles began clicking rapidly, which in her species was equivalent to screaming. "Please, that's really not necessary. We have very specialized dietary requirements." "Oh, come on," Jake insisted, grabbing the coffee pot from Marcus. "At least try some coffee. It's the universal human pick-me-up. Here, I'll pour you each a cup. Before any of the medical staff could protest, Jake was advancing on them with a pot of what their scanners were now identifying as liquid stimulant concentrate. The smell alone was triggering the medical bay's chemical detection alarms. Jake, please. Zyx'tal backed away slowly. I really don't think our physiology is compatible with human consumables. Nonsense. Food is the universal language of friendship. Jake poured 3 steaming cups of coffee, the aroma making the air recycling system work overtime. Here, just a small sip. It's Colombian blend, supposed to be really smooth. Kipnock stared at the offered cup as if it contained liquid plutonium, which, given human dietary habits, wasn't entirely out of the question. Jake, your coffee contains enough caffeine to euthanize a small moon. Yeah, but you build up a tolerance, Jake explained helpfully. I've been drinking it since I was 12. The 3 medical officers exchanged glances of pure terror. Humans had been consuming known toxins since childhood. This explained so much about their psychological profiles. Elena, meanwhile, had opened her container of salsa, releasing an aroma that immediately triggered the ship's emergency ventilation protocols. Here, try this with some of the tortilla chips I made. Fair warning, it's got a little kick to it. The little kick was registering on their scanners as concentrated chemical warfare. The salsa was literally emitting vapor that would have been classified as a crowd control agent on most civilized worlds. Perhaps, Velendra suggested desperately, we could start with something milder. Oh, you're right, Marcus said thoughtfully. We should ease you into it. Here, try some of this chocolate Elena brought. It's practically candy. The chocolate bar he unwrapped looked innocent enough, but the moment it hit the air, their scanners began detecting alkaloids, theobramine, and something called anandamide that the computer insisted was a psychoactive compound. This chocolate contains mind-altering substances, Kipnox observed weakly. Well, yeah. Elena laughed. Chocolate's a natural mood enhancer. It releases endorphins and serotonin, makes you feel happy. You consume psychoactive drugs for recreational mood enhancement, Zyx'tal stated, his translator struggling with the concept. When you put it like that, it sounds way more hardcore than it actually is, Jake protested, still holding out the cup of coffee with determined friendliness. At that moment, the medical bay's emergency protocols activated. Warning lights began flashing and the computer's voice took on the urgent tone usually reserved for hull breaches. Warning, atmospheric contamination detected. Multiple toxic compounds identified. Recommend immediate evacuation and hazmat protocols. The 3 humans looked around with mild confusion while the alien medical staff tried not to panic. Huh, Marcus said thoughtfully. Is your air system always this sensitive? It's designed to detect dangerous chemical compounds, Valandra explained through gritted mandibles. Oh, that explains it. Elena nodded, understanding. The capsaicin vapor from the salsa probably triggered it. Plus the chocolate releases some pretty intense aromatics, and coffee has like 40 different volatile compounds. Zyx'tal felt his worldview crumbling. These creatures didn't just consume toxins, they weaponized the very air around them simply by eating. The medical bay was now classified as a contaminated zone because 3 humans had opened some snacks. Jake, he said slowly, I'm beginning to understand why your species survived as long as it has. Superior adaptability? Jake suggested hopefully, still offering the coffee. No, Zyx'tal replied, watching his life's work in xenobiology dissolve into chaos. Pure, unadulterated biological impossibility. The humans beamed at what they apparently considered a compliment, completely oblivious to the fact that they had just redefined the medical team's entire understanding of what constituted a survivable life form. The coffee was still steaming ominously in Jake's outstretched hand. 2 hours later, after the emergency ventilation system had finally cleared the toxic aroma of human snacks, Zyx'tal sat in his office staring at a medical report that read like science fiction. His eye stalks drooped with the weight of newfound knowledge that he wasn't entirely sure he wanted to possess. Kipnox and Velendra sat across from him, their respective forms displaying various shades of exhausted bewilderment. The coffee cups remained untouched on the desk, still emanating what their sensors insisted was a low-level chemical threat. So, Kipnox said finally, his crystalline structure settling into a resigned amber glow, we're officially classifying humans as biological anomalies. Biological anomalies, walking chemical weapons, and apparently immune to their own toxicity, Zyx'tal confirmed, updating his medical database with trembling appendages. I'm adding a special notation. Human physiology defies all known medical science. Proceed with extreme caution and lowered expectations of survival. Valandra's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. Should we inform Captain Morden that we have 3 crew members whose bloodstreams qualify as hazardous waste? I think the captain has enough problems without knowing that our human contingent could probably survive a direct hit from a chemical warfare drone, Zyx'tal replied wearily. Just then, Jake poked his head through the medical bay doors, looking refreshed and energetic in a way that defied everything they had learned about toxicology.
Hey, Doc.
Just wanted to let you know I'm feeling great. Whatever was wrong with me earlier, I'm totally fine now. I'm gonna head back to my quarters and take it easy for the rest of the day. The 3 medical officers exchanged glances of pure terror. When humans said they were going to take it easy, it apparently meant something very different than what civilized species considered relaxation. Jake, Zyx'tal called out cautiously. When you say take it easy, you're not planning to consume any more recreational toxins, are you? Oh no, nothing crazy. Just gonna have a beer or 2 with dinner, maybe some of Elena's leftover spicy curry. You know, keep it mellow. After Jake left, humming cheerfully as he headed off to voluntarily poison himself some more, the medical bay fell into contemplative silence. I have a theory, Valandra said finally. Please share, Zyx'tal encouraged, desperate for any explanation that might restore his faith in medical science. What if humans aren't actually from Earth originally? What if they're the survivors of some ancient biological weapons experiment that went horribly right? Kupnox's structure brightened with interest. That would explain their immunity to toxins that should kill them. And their casual attitude toward consuming chemical warfare agents, Zyx'tal added thoughtfully. In the distance they could hear Jake laughing about something with Marcus and Elena, probably planning their next assault on the ship's atmospheric systems with whatever they called dinner. You know what? Zyx'tal said, closing his medical files with finality. I'm not putting any of this in the official report. No one would believe it anyway. Agreed, his colleagues replied in unison. Some mysteries, they had decided, were better left unsolved. Especially when those mysteries could apparently kill you just by sharing their snacks.